So, Donald Trump has applied maximum pressure and turned North Korea's security assets, their nuclear weapons and their ICBMs, into liabilities by threatening them and applying that maximum pressure. And North Korea needs security. There's no doubt about it. Every country needs security. No political leader can survive if his people aren't secure to some extent. At least his ruling elites and his security forces and army and all that. They need food, they need weapons and all that. Otherwise, the regime will collapse, right? This is based on the ruling elites' individual needs. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They have low order needs: food, shelter, safety, security. Safety and security is from, the policeman has a baton or a weapon or something, some pepper spray. The Army has a AK-47, M16, whatever, a tank, a helicopter, F-22 Raptor, F-35. Those are the things that provide us with security. And the big ticket items that the government buys that provide us all with security. And then there's the things we have like ADT, home security at our house. The North Koreans, they need security too. They get it from a nuclear bomb and an ICBM and some missile programs that they develop. But there's other ways to achieve security. You can buy it. And the North Koreans don't like to buy it, but they can buy things. And either buy it from the Pakistanis or somebody else that has weapon systems, the Cubans or the Russians or the Chinese. And in the past, they bought things and built things and sold things, but who's going to stop them from doing that, right? We don't want them to export any of their technology and proliferate anything. Otherwise, the world's a more dangerous place. So, they can't get as much money from selling their nuclear know-how and their enriched weapons-grade plutonium or uranium or whatever. They can't make any money off that if they can't ship it somewhere and repatriate the funds somehow, bitcoins or whatever they get money in. But so we've been cracking on them financially with Steve Mnuchin and the trade representative and the commerce secretary put a lot of sanctions on them, with Steve Mnuchin, and we threatened the Chinese too. So the Chinese have an interest in this being resolved. They need our food as a secondary source of supply. In terms of their national security interests, that all makes sense. And the North Koreans need security, they can get it from the Chinese. The third way you can get it, you can create your own security, buy security, or you can create a security alliance. And we have a security alliance in the United States. It's called NATO. We also have security relationships with Korea and Japan, South Korea and Japan, and other countries that we do military exercises with. We help arm them, like the Taiwanese, and the Israelis and the Egyptians. And they provide us with intelligence sometimes, and they provide us with money for our foreign military sales, which sometimes lowers the cost of our development for weapon systems. So it's a good option. The North Koreans only have one partner in this world, and that's the Chinese. And that's why before you meet your enemies, and they said they'd meet with us, and they're going to meet with Donald Trump, President Trump, they would meet their enemies first. And that's why Chairman Kim went to China a while back, and he met with President Xi. And then he met again this week. He met with President Xi. And he met with President Xi before he met with President Moon. And Moon's a Korean. He's a South Korean, but they're enemies. They've been at war since 1953. And, well, actually since 1950, right? They were at war throughout the Korean War, but even since the end of the war, they've been at war too. So they've had an armistice at times, and they've had little conflicts at different times. They've blown people up on the DMZ with landmines and sunk ships at sea and all that. But they need a security relationship if they're going to get rid of nuclear weapons. Without a security relationship, I would have never believed that they were going to get rid of nuclear weapons. But if they make progress with the Chinese, and the Chinese say, oh yeah, if the Americans invade or they use nukes or something, then we'll back you. And I believe the Chinese would back the North Koreans, because if America moves in, then they don't have a buffer zone anymore. And that's the difference between what happened at Gaddafi, where we ran him out in the street and beat him to death, and what might happen to Kim. You know, is that the Chinese, they'll prop up the regime there as long as they can get their buffer zone. They don't have a lot of interest in what goes on there, and as long as they don't have refugees flowing into the country, they don't want that either. And they don't want, they don't want Americans on their border either, or South Koreans for that matter as well. Probably they kind of like it how it is, but they can't have it the way it is right now, based on the American policy, because Donald Trump going in and start smoking Koreans and nuking things and all that. Then they're not going to be satisfied with that outcome either. So they want to come to the table. And they're the shadow government behind the North Korean denuclearization. It only worked that way. The North Koreans would never come to the table unless they got security. And they got security from the Chinese. Even slaves are fed. That's a low order need, and it explains. Maslow would explain it. You'd have a rebellion if you didn't feed them, if you didn't shelter them and clothe them and things like that. They definitely revolt. There's a lot of revolts throughout history or slavery revolts. I'm not just talking about American slaves, but during American slavery, there were slave owners who tried to achieve the higher order needs. They provided slaves with Bibles or read Bibles to them and read newspapers to them if they didn't know how to read. And some of them attended worship services with whites, and in some cases they built black churches and separate, that equal thing. But there was whites who built sometimes black churches for the blacks. And that may not have been the right thing to do, but they knew that they had to provide some of the low order and high order needs. There's a lot of slaves in North Korea, that I'm sure that they feed them. They don't feed them very well, and they're treated poorly, but everyone is not treated poorly, and that's how they maintain some power sometimes.